Okay, so you'll know that we've been working for a couple of years on plans around the broader system changes, including out of hospital and of course in hospital. And one of the things that we've kind of spent a lot of time talking about is A&E, the configuration of A&E. And you'll know that the option appraisal work that happened took 108 options down to 2, which were largely about the differences between what would happen at A&E at Southend in the future. And that, amongst all of the conversations that we're having on succession regime, lots of clinical engagement, nursing and other professions as well, talking, sharing, wanting to learn from each other. That single issue has become absolutely the dominant agenda, such that really it's very difficult to talk about very much else, as I'm sure you know. But this is a process of engagement. We haven't done public consultation yet, and we haven't reached firm conclusions yet. So, having done, and received, over 100 public meetings, where we've listened to people, listened to the public, lots of internal clinical meetings, we have heard very clearly that this blanket redirection of blue light ambulances is something that people are finding incredibly difficult to think will be safe, public and A&E clinical staff. Now, I think that what's important to recognise within this is that there is quite a lot of agreement amongst the wider clinical body, which says that we do need to change, that there are things that we do need to consolidate. There is still benefit in treating the sickest patients. So the current proposal now, and that we need to work up and to get much more detail on, is that all of the 3 A&Es would remain open to blue light ambulances. That patients would normally, and of course there are some pathways already where patients bypass the local A&E, but that patients would normally go to the local A&E where they would have an initial assessment, the initial diagnostics that are required, initiation of treatment and stabilisation if required, and then they would be discharged home, admitted to the local site if it's appropriate to do so, or in some cases transferred to a specialist centre for ongoing care. And by that specialist centre I mean that each of the 3 hospitals provides some sort of specialist care, but probably for medical emergencies it will be Basildon, and for some surgical emergencies it may be Basildon. It may be Basildon if it's an operation overnight, maybe Broomfield, or it may be Southend. And these are the clinical pathways that need to be worked through in some detail. So the key message here is that there would not be, in the future, a blanket redirection of all blue light ambulances, which is the thing that has been very clear bone of contention, particularly in the Southend patch. It was never intended that blue light ambulances would be diverted away from Broomfield, except possibly overnight. So what this says is that unless there are specific agreed pathways where it's deemed that patients would be better off by the clinicians transferring out, that patients would expect to be stabilised in the local A&E. Okay, so that's the key difference. The specialist services that we currently have continue. That we've always been very consistent about that. Okay, so the majority of patients would get care in their local hospital, but if they need it, then there's a potential that they would be transferred on after that initial. Okay, there are some services that are delivered on all sites. Medical assessment unit isn't on there, but that is intended. So frailty, surgical assessment, paediatric assessment on all sites, as well as maternity and paediatrics. So much of what Broomfield does would stay the same, but some of the very sickest medical emergency patients may be, if clinically appropriate, and if that's what the model clinicians agree, transferred probably to Basildon for that intensive period of care, then either discharged home from there or repatriated, depending on what the clinical model is by specialty. Okay, so there's more work that needs to be done over the next couple of months to be clear about what those clinical pathways will be and what types of conditions. GI bleeding might be an example. and the work needs to continue such that we hope that we can get through all of the approval processes as a system and get out to public consultation with a proposed model by the end of this calendar year, December, so to run from December, January, February. No changes will be implemented before 2018-19, and certainly not before public consultation. And capital is required. We do need money to help to deliver some of the changes that this model would imply, and we need to still secure that capital. We don't yet have that. So all of these changes are some years down the track, but crucially, we need to set out a plan that can help us to be really clear about what the future is starting to look like, so that we can really get organised. There's a great deal of energy and enthusiasm in a lot of places about change, but we do need to get a bit specific so that can allow people to really get behind the change and the clinical work for their service. So I'm gonna stop because I'm sure you've got some questions, and just open it up to the floor for any comments or questions that you've got. And don't ask each other, ask me.
Why is that really that difference?
Yeah, so it's the intention would be that we try to consolidate smaller services, and we try to consolidate resources such that we still do get the benefit of the 6 months getting that intensive treatment and the separation. Now, there's always at the margins anyway in terms of the number of patients who may be moving around. If you take Southend, probably about 30, maybe up to 40, but probably about 30 patients in a 24-hour period we would expect under this model to move. So you can see that does provide a bit of decompression of the emergency medical bed base, such that you can get more elective surgery through, but crucially avoids moving frail older people around just for the sake of the diversion of the environment. So it's not going to be entirely straightforward. The devil will absolutely be in the detail. But the honest truth is there are no easy answers when you're trying to reshape hospital services with reduced funding and with workforce constraints. And we could continue with a model that is unpopular and if you haven't got the support from A&E consultants and they're not willing to advocate the model, and we know we can't continue as we are now. This is a pragmatic view which has come from the A&E consultants about how they think we can move forward.
I mean, one of the big issues is staffing the departments and manpower, and actually that with the proposals of spreading it over, still remaining having 3 A&Es and still going to be an issue.
Yeah. So it's better than it was. So when we first started a couple of years ago, A&E staffing was even more difficult. So all 3 hospitals have actually recruited more consultants in the last couple of years. So that pressure is not as acute. But what this doesn't give us is a consultant delivered 24/7 service, because you can't possibly do that on 3 sites. So it doesn't diminish what we've got now, but it doesn't enhance it. So that's, there are trade-offs in all of this.
Just so I understand in paediatrics, if day surgery, I believe, staying at all sites, and outpatients is staying at all sites, and assessment units for paediatrics, does that mean the moderately ill child then came into Broomfield, we would transfer them to Basildon until they're well enough to come back to us? I'm not quite sure.
This is an adult model.
Okay, so it's
not. That wouldn't be the model. No. So I think you've been involved in the paediatric working groups, and I think that the focus of that is to say that actually more emphasis needs to be on the out-of-hospital working across the network and reducing inpatient stay for children through better ambulatory pathways. In the long term, maybe looking to centralise more paediatrics, but at the moment keeping that local.
When we had a surgical group that was meeting, there was one very insightful member that I think was an orthopaedic surgeon. He said because the elective and emergency split, he made a good point that it's not really elective surgery and emergency surgery that needs to split. It's emergency medicine that needs to be kept away from elective beds. Because actually, emergency surgery and elective surgery sort of run well together because the problems are broadly similar, and the personnel are similar, and we don't tend to metastasise into each other's beds. So has that thought process been taken forward at all?
Yeah, I think it has. So I think in some of the surgical groups there's some thought thinking developing that actually, so mid already does upper GI, head and neck surgery, may be sensible to have emergency and elective upper GI, or even all of GI and head and neck. And likewise at South End, where you've got gynae and possibly lower GI. So I think the thinking about elective and emergency surgery, obviously being separate in terms of bed base, but not necessarily being in separate hospitals, I think is developing. The main thrust of this is around medicine and trying to reduce the pressure of medical emergencies being spread across.
Here's the other point that was talked about endlessly, is that it's equally, if not probably more important outside hospital than inside hospital. And we kept being told, oh yes, they're working on that, but they're way behind us in the community. Without wishing to be too negative about it, unless that's sorted, we can do as much as we like. We're not going to crack this nut. Can we be reassured that the resources going into the community services so that we do not get referrals the whole time just because there's nowhere else for people to go? Because until we crack that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree with you. In a way, it's a bit circular because whilst all the resources and the patients' own money are coming into hospitals because there isn't an alternative, there isn't the money to invest in the services that would keep them out. So this is, I suppose, about having a plan which says, if all the growth money that's going to come in to the NHS, and I mean growth because people are getting older and the population's getting bigger, not because we're expecting new money, but if you model forward, every year we get a bit more income. And if some of that income we don't need to spend in hospitals because we've managed to come up with clinical models that are cheaper, then we can invest in the community. Now, there's going to be a bit of double money. And there's also the bit about actually working in partnership around frail elderly, for example, respiratories and other examples. We need, as an acute, to be helping in that out-of-hospital space. But you're absolutely right, it hasn't moved as quickly as it should. The CCGs have just recently committed to forming a joint committee, but we've been at this 2 years now. So it remains high on the worry list. And these plans are predicated on that demand being managed differently. So it all has to, none of this is overnight, but the pressure on the out-of-hospital space is growing. We had a regional review meeting this week, and it's definitely the area where people are most concerned and are putting most focus. David?
To follow that up, Claire, so do you think when you go to consultation that the model for community and private will be actually there and people will be able to see what that looks like in consultation?
And it won't be a model that relies solely on GPs because we know they are. So it's going to be about describing hubs that have services delivered by pharmacists, physios, social workers, mental health support, and a whole multi-professional team trying to manage the issues and the demands on primary care. The GPs are on their knees, and there are people queuing up wanting to be GPs actually. So it's going to have to be a different model.
Many would argue it already is. It's a version of Lancet locum services in 3 practices, at least recently here. And we still seem to be trying to plan the service on the basis of the traditional GP who knows the grandparents and the grandchildren and everything in between. It just isn't like that. It doesn't exist.
So some bits of the patch are trying to start to think about, almost let's separate an emergency elective GP care as well, so that you get one bit of the service which is providing the planned long-term condition proactive management, and the other side which is doing kind of appointments on the day and more episodic. So that, some of that thinking is starting, because you're right, they cannot be all things to all people, and they're starting up on them, and they're not working in big enough systems. In the south, it's even worse. still lots of single-handed GPs working out of front rooms. So it is a real challenge.
So I think from the get-go, when we were consulted within the hospital about the ES or the Essex Success Regime, the clinicians here were always pointing out is the front door and the back door. And as Nigel has said, it is that element, there's this insatiable demand, etc. It's worth commenting that Dr. Okinawa died at the age of 101 in St. Luke's Hospital in Japan yesterday. And he was the designer of looking at why the Japanese population, which is the most elderly in the world, is the healthiest also in the world at that age. And they looked at what was happening in the GP community, etc., and planning. Now, have we learned anything about this huge resource shift that we've been looking at? And I don't think, from what you previously described as the STPs, etc., unless you can flesh that out and saying, how are we really going to keep our, people at the age of 50 planning for what they're going to be like when they're 80? It all seems to be like when you're 80, what we're going to do with you.
No, you're right.
But I mean, in the sense that if we have learned anything, if it isn't going to be, and it's not an inappropriate word speaking about Japan, tsunami of healthcare, that we have no chance of dealing with it. The reorganisation within the hospital thing is the rearranging of the deck chairs on the Titanic. Can you flesh out what an STP will mean to us with regard to keeping the patients who shouldn't really be in hospital?
Well, the bottom line is that is the responsibility of those people outside of hospital to develop the right model. That is not my area of expertise. But what we're seeing around the country are systems coming together in big conglomerations of primary care, working on disease registers, working on early identification of patients at risk, putting in proper IT systems that help you understand what's going on in your population. We've never had the money to properly invest. Really, we should be investing in preventing our kids getting obese, in stopping smoking, at schools and people in their 20s and 30s. The NHS is just not geared up at this stage for that. But in places like in Valencia in Spain, they've come together. They've said, right, we're going to take the health and social care pack euro, and we're going to put it together, and we're going to run a system which we don't move money between us. We don't have a commissioner provider, coding challenges. We pay for this off, we pay for, but actually they bring the money together and say, how do we focus on providing health and healthcare for this population? And we're starting to have those conversations. The Valencia guys are coming over. This is happening in various parts of the UK as well. It's what they're calling, you're hearing about accountable care systems, where actually everyone is incentivised, not just the GPs and the practice nurses, but everyone in the health community is incentivised to do the prevention and the early management and early recognition of disease. Because unless all of our efforts are put into this as well, it's not going to happen. It can't be that the GP model is never going to be sufficient for that. It's going to take a whole mind shift. And I think the acute and the 15,000 people that we employ also have a responsibility to be working on that continuum. And if we were not paid for every patient that came in our door, but we were holding a budget for the health and well-being of our community, we could do so much more for that. So I think that's some of the kind of emergent thinking. But it ain't next week and it isn't next winter.
Would there be one STP for this hospital? 3, 5, 12?
ACO.
How are they called?
Accountable care.
Yeah.
So you can have accountable care organisations, just reduces the complexity of all the different providers. So community, GPs, acute hospitals. So you can bring all that budget together. Our STP, this is our basic STPs, and as far as anyone can foresee the political climate, which the days get shorter and shorter, are here to stay. It's definitely being seen as a delivery vehicle. The leadership of STPs is going to be simplified over time. So I think it's going in that general direction. We are hampered, frankly, in our patch by the fact that our commissioning groups are not as forward-thinking. Some of them are, but as a five, they're not as forward-thinking as in other parts of the country. So they're not embracing new ways of working as quickly as we might like. And so we've got to help them with that. And some of the clinical challenge and the clinical conversations are where that can be really useful as well. Any other background?
End of life care. I think we all agree we don't have adequate resource to look after people who are dying too often in the way that we would wish. One of my personal big bugbears is the fact that the hospital is the default position for anybody who's got nowhere else to go. And that includes a very elderly, unhealthy person who is living in a nursing home and the GP happens to spot a minor problem, but because they're a virgin locum GP, they can tick a box and send them to the hospital for urgent investigation for bowel cancer all the time. Equally absurd. My clinic last week, 4 people I didn't even examine because we agreed they didn't wish to be examined, even though they referred up for urgent investigation. That's not because GPs are bad or don't care, it's because they're under such pressure to move on to the next task. It would be my opinion that there is a huge opportunity there to save resource and treat people more kindly and better by early in the process working out whether or not they really want us to be doing that sort of thing to them and send them up to hospitals. I think that's a massive project with potentially ginormous gains which will release our resource to treat people who want to be treated. I'm not aware of a project to address that.
And there is something called advanced care planning, which GPs are being asked to do, and there is a lot of focus on the nursing residential homes, partly to train staff so that they can manage simple interventions, and also to manage their stress, because often there may be one qualified member of staff on a nursing home with a whole load of other non-qualified staff, and they don't feel that they can manage those patients. There's a big training and education thing that the CCGs are running, but until you've actually sat down with a family, and these are conversations that people don't like to have, and they're always conversations which are optional.
They're not easy and they take time.
Exactly.
And so resource needs to be put in. Yeah. So there isn't a coordinated plan.
No, there isn't. Well, there is work going on, and Mid Essex CCG have they live well, age well, die well. So they do focus quite a lot in Mid on the care of the dying patient and end of life care, and thinking about the planning. And some of you may know more about that in terms of what the CCG.
There are projects underway, but our everyday experience would suggest that they're not yet very effective. As I say, I just cannot feel this is an enormous opportunity to be kinder and more effective and spend less money. Probably what all of us want to do.
So, I mean, each nursing home should have a named GP who should be visiting the care home every week or fortnight. That was certainly something that was put in last winter, and so that they are at least having the opportunity to know the patients. And one of the key metrics that the CCG gets measured on is the number of admissions from care homes. It's a focus to try and encourage them to put resource into that agenda. But your point is well made, Angela.
Just on that, there is a piece of work that we're working with about ourselves around patients in hospital. I think we need to get
life
that
out of
hospital. So I think we will take that away.
Sorry. The community pediatric service is so much important to keep the children away from the hospital, and we are not an integrated health service here. The community and that you joined up. Now the community pediatric service is run by the different providers and it changes all the time. Provide now the Virgin, and so are they on board? I mean, when we are talking about a success regime with involvement of all the people, and how much I don't know their involvement at all. I mean, how they're contributing to the pathways and
Well, I'm sure you know the answer to that better than I. If you're not meeting them, then they're not involved.
well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they have not engaged at all. I mean, because they are a different provider and they do not get all the information and which we some get. I mean, and that causes a huge problem. And I have hardly seen them engaged in all the meetings we had. And this is a real challenge because the main thrust will be to see the child in the community and not come to the hospital. Otherwise, it's not going to work at all, in my opinion.
I think community paediatrics is a really good example of where actually, I think there's quite a strong argument to say that should be a joined up service.
Yes.
And that the hospital and the community team are kind of one team who are responsible for looking
Yes.
after children, and they come to hospital only
Only if it is necessary.
Now that is the model in Southend. They do manage the community paediatric service. It's not in Basildon, it's not here. But even in Southend, it's not working terribly effectively. So
True.
it does need to have that whole system kind of look at what is the model of care that we want. And I think if the paediatricians with the paediatric nursing and wider team were able to articulate a better model for children and their families that kept children out, then I think the commissioners would be very happy to have that conversation with us. If it means recommissioning bits of the pathway, you know, everyone wants to see, whether it's a child or an adult or a dying person, that their care is delivered closest to home, and that is a fundamental. So I think if you as a collective have got some good thinking about that, then I think we should be engaging the commissioners in that pathway redesign.
Hiya. I'm just wondering if you have any current relevant and accurate up-to-date information about the orthopaedic services at Braintree at the moment, because I keep on hearing different bits and pieces about Braintree and not Braintree again. So, what's your understanding of it, of the situation?
As of today, yeah. So I think even if you had all of this success to one side, we, I think, as a management team here, believe that providing a separate elective service at Braintree, where we can make better use of the theatres and facilities that we've got there, and release capacity on this site for sicker elective patients is the right thing to do. So that's what the team are working on, describing that business case. We're working with Provide and with CCG, so that can all be coordinated, because you know that Provide have got occupancy of the beds at Braintree at the moment. In the longer term, as part of the reconfiguration, then I think Brookfield and Southend will both do inpatient elective orthopaedic work. How that gets split out, whether it's upper limb, lower limb, I don't know. But we will do elective orthopaedics on the Brookfield site. We won't do inpatient elective orthopaedics, I don't think, on the Basildon site, and we will do it on the Southend site. And in that equation, Braintree is still important. So I think the message I would give is we want to see that getting used both in the short term, medium and longer term.
Is there any sort of time frame on those kind of changes happening?
So we hope actually that by the end of this calendar year, we would have access into those beds at Braintree. But obviously there's a lot of planning that needs to happen. We need to be able to ensure that we can staff it, that we've got the appropriate patient selection, aesthetic, all of that stuff. Yeah. And that's what's being worked through. But we're having active conversations with CCG and Provide. In fact, I was just talking to Peter and David outside just before we came in here. So it's very live